A Rabbinic Anthology selected by C.G. Montefiore and H.Loewe. Incidentally, it may be noticed that office was regarded as so unpleasant that it was in itself supposed to cause forgiveness of all sins. 569, T.J. Bick 3.3.65c, finished to 65d, initial, see selection 1106 in our book. When they wanted to appoint R. Zera as Nasi, see 419, he did not want to accept the office. When he heard this teaching as regards the scholar, the bridegroom, the patriarch, the office atones for sin. He accepted it. How is the teaching proved? As regards the scholar, it says, "Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of an old man, and fear thy God. I am the Lord." Leviticus 19:32. Now remember, Lord is a stand-in for God as a verb and noun. And immediately after follows the verse, "If a stranger, proselyte, sojourns in thy land, thou shalt not oppress him," i.e. reproach him for his former idolatry. Even as the proselyte is forgiven his former sins, so the scholar appointed to an office is forgiven his iniquities. As to the bridegroom, it says, Esau took Mahalath, i.e. forgiveness, the daughter of Ishmael, to wife, but her original name was Bashemath, daughter of Shem. The new name shows that Esau was forgiven all his iniquities. See Genesis 28:9 and 36:3. As to the Nasi, it says, Saul was 1 year old when he began to reign. Correct Hebrew text. Was he really 1 year old? No, it means his sins were forgiven him, and he became as if he were a sinless child of 1 year old. 1 Samuel 13:1. Notes 57 and 78 in our book that we'll get to later. T.J. Bick 3.3.65c, finished to 65d, initial. See selection 1106. And let us remember the importance of sometimes taking a new name when we change faith or group. And I'll get into elsewhere, because it deserves its own program, the difference between the Nazium, a Nashi, and a Nazi. The office bearer was the servant of the community. 570, Pass R 111a. He who receives office in order to profit from it is like an adulterer who gets his pleasure from a woman's body. God says, I'm called holy, you are called holy. If you have not all the qualities which I have, you should not accept leadership. Pass R 111a. 571, Hor 10a, Fin. R. Gamaliel was told of 2 rabbis who were very clever and very poor. He determined to appoint them to a salaried post. He sent for them, but they did not come. He sent again, and they came. He said to them, You thought I was going to offer you rule. And so in humility, they wanted to evade the honor. It is service that I am giving you. And he quoted 1 Kings 12:7, If thou wilt be a servant unto this people this day, or 10a finish. Now, political offices should be about public service. Sure, some benefit may come as a result, but now, chivalry's dead, they say, because they've replaced it with mere politicians and celebrities. The following bizarre story also reflects the rabbinic point of view. It is interesting because it likewise reveals a certain humility and broad-mindedness on the part of the rabbi, which, in all the circumstances of the case, is rather surprising. 572, Men 44a. R. Nathan said, "There is no commandment in the law, however light, for which there is not a reward in this world. The reward in the world to come, I know not. Learn this from the command of the princes. There was a man who was very careful about the law of the princes. He heard that there was a courtesan in a city beyond the sea who demanded 400 gold pieces for her hire. So he sent her these and fixed an appointment with her. When the time came, he went and sat at her door. Her maid said, 'The man who sent you the 400 gold pieces is here.' She said, 'Let him come in.' Now she had prepared 7 couches, 6 of silver and 1 of gold, and she lay down upon the topmost couch. So the man entered. He was about to sin with her when he noticed the fringes on his garment. Then he sat on the ground, and she did the same. Then she said, 'I swear I will not let you go till you tell me what blemish you have discerned in me.' He said, 'I swear I have never seen a woman as beautiful as you. But God has given us a commandment called fringes, and in the wording of this commandment it is twice said, I am the Lord your God. That is, I am he who will surely punish and who will surely reward. And now the 4 fingers have seemed to me like 4 witnesses.' Then she said, 'I will not let you go till you tell me your name and that of your city and of your teacher and of your house of study where you will learn the law.' He wrote them down and gave them to her. Then she arose and sold all her possessions. 1/3 of the proceeds she gave to the government, 1/3 she gave to the poor, 1/3 she took with her, but she did not sell the couches. Then she came to the house of study of R. Chia and said to him, 'Master, make me a proselyte.' He said to her, 'Have you cast your eye upon one of my disciples?' Then she took out the writing of that disciple and gave it to him. He said to her, 'Go and enjoy your purchase.' And those couches which she had prepared for him in a forbidden manner, she now prepared for him in a permitted manner. Such was the reward of the fringes in this world, but how great a reward in the world to come, I know not. Men 44a. The story of Montefiore and his treasure is very familiar. 573 TJ PA 1, Section 1, Folio 15b, line 63. Montefiore distributed all his treasures to the poor in the year of trouble, famine. His brothers sent to him and said, 'My fathers gathered treasures and added to those of their fathers, and you have dispersed yours and theirs,' and said to them, 'My fathers gathered treasures for below, I have gathered treasures for above.' They stored treasures in a place over which the hand of man can rule, but I have stored treasures in a place over which the hand of man cannot rule. My fathers collected treasures which bear no fruit, interest. I have gathered treasures which do bear fruit. My fathers gathered treasures of money, mammon. I have gathered treasures in souls. My fathers gathered treasures for others. I have gathered treasures for myself. My fathers gathered treasures in this world. I have gathered treasures for the world to come, even as it says, righteousness, i.e. charity, tzedakah, delivers from death. Does this mean that a charitable man does not die? No, It means that he does not die a death for the world to come. TJ 1:15b, line 63. The simple confidence of the rabbis and the certainty of heavenly reward is well illustrated by the following stories. Mac 24b, Lamentations R 5:18. Once R Gamaliel, R Eleazar, R Joshua, and R Akiba were journeying, and they heard the tumult of the city of Rome from afar, and the first three wept. But Akiba laughed. They said, "Why do you laugh?" He said, "Why do you weep?" They said, "These heathen who pray and burn incense to idols dwell in peace and security, whereas in our case, the house, which was the footstool of our God's feet, is burnt with fire. How should we not weep?" He replied, "That is why I laugh. If this is the lot of those who transgress his will, how much more glorious shall be the lot of those who perform his will." Again, on another occasion, they were going to Jerusalem, and when they came to Mount Scopus, they rent their clothes, and when they came to the Temple Mount, they saw a fox coming out of the Holy of Holies. Then the first three wept, but Akiba laughed. They said, "Why do you laugh?" He said, "Why do you weep?" They said, "In and out of the place of which it is said, the foreigner that comes near to it shall be put to death. Now foxes run." Lamentations 5:18, Numbers 1:51. How should we not weep? He said, "This is why I laugh, for it says, I will take unto me faithful witnesses, Uriah the priest, and Zechariah the son of Jeberechiah." Isaiah 8:2. How came Uriah and Zechariah together? Uriah lived during the first temple, and Zechariah during the second. But the scripture made the prophecy of Zechariah dependent upon the prophecy of Uriah. For Uriah said, "Zion shall be plowed as a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps." Micah 3:12 and Jeremiah 26:18-20. And Zechariah said, "Yet again shall the street of Jerusalem be full of boys and girls playing in the street." Zechariah 8:5. If Uriah's prophecy had not been fulfilled, I might fear that Zechariah's prophecy would not be fulfilled. But now that Uriah's prophecy has been fulfilled, it is certain that Zechariah's prophecy will also be fulfilled. Then they said to him, "Verily, Akiba, you have comforted us." Mac 24b, Lamentations 5:18. Now, Lamentation R 5:18. Now let us remember the earlier selections indicating that if you believe that this is what a prophet taught, then it's worse to claim that it's from themselves or wrong or whatever than it is to commit any other sin, as they say. And so these were the stationary temples. Then you had the Maccabean temple as the third temple period, and the Herodian temple as the fourth. And you could say the Bar Kokhba rebellion, they reestablished the temple, so that would be a fifth. And in the 7th century of the Common Era, they reopened the place, cleaned out some places of Temple Mount, and the Jews didn't want to establish the full temple function, but they've been allowed to do that. So, but it's been a more universal temple since then. So where's this third temple that they keep talking about on Christian television? They just don't know their Jewish history. They don't know the Israeli history, because the traveling temple, it was also called the sanctuary. So that's really 3 temple periods is Israelites, 3 is Jews, and okay, and one thing we need to address is by heathen, they mean the polytheists. So when the Christians worship their saints and Jesus and other prophets, and angels and all that, they're referring to this too when they talk about the Gentiles. And just like in Hinduism, well, I mean, some forms of Hinduism, you find some of these cults, they would kill people for overhearing the scripture or going to a place without being an authorized person, that sort of stuff. And yeah, I guess you shouldn't force it if they hold you back at the gates or something. Oh, only certain people can go this far. It's like, okay, you know. Nevertheless, the famous adage in Abath is constantly repeated as at the end of the next passage, 575, Abzar 19a. It says in the Psalms, "Happy is the man who fears the Lord and delights greatly in his commandments." Our Elazar said, "In his commandments, but not in the reward of the commandments, as it is taught," Abath 1:3. "Be not as servants who minister to their master upon the condition of receiving a reward, but be like servants who minister to their master without the condition of receiving a reward." Note 80, Abzar 19a. The next quotation is rather significant. 576, Ab-Rn, verse 2, 10:13b. "Be not like servants that serve the master. For the sake of receiving a reward, it would have been fitting for a part of the reward of the righteous in this world to have been revealed, but for the reward in the next world to have been concealed. But because of those who were wanting in faith, God was fain to reveal some part of the reward of the righteous in the world to come." Rn, verse 2, 10:13b. The rabbis tried as much as they could to shift the earthly reward of the Bible onto the world to come. 577, Tanch, Bereshit, section 1, folio 7a, C, selection 1555. The reward for obedience to the law is not in this world, but in the world to come, for it says, "The commands which I bid you do this day," Deuteronomy 7:11. To do this day, but not to receive the reward this day. So says David, "How great is the reward which thou hast stored away for them that fear thee." Psalm 31:19, Tanch Bereshit, section 1, folio 7a, C, selection 1555. 578, Tanch Bereshit, section 1, folio 7a. You find that in the hour of death, God shows to those who study the law the reward they will receive. It happened that when Abahu was passing out of this world, God showed him 13 rivers of balm. And as his death approached, he began to say to his disciples, "Happy are you who busy yourselves with the law." They said, "Our master, what dost thou see that thou sayest this?" He told them of the rivers of balm. "These has God given me, and I had thought I had labored in vain. For nothing in vanity had I wasted my strength. But truly my judgment is with the Lord, and my reward with my God." Isaiah 49:4, Tanch Bereshit, section 1, folio 7a. Now, whether that's a stand-in for increasing existence, establishing established, or not, it's the same thing. Some of the Christians have said, well, when they say Elohim, they mean this. And when they say Yahweh, they mean this. And when they say Lord, they're talking about the same God. And so the reference to not using God's name in secular use, then you just don't profane the name of any of the names. It's not just tetragrammatons or the tetragrammaton. So were prevented doubts, for as nobody can say what happens to a man after death, faith in future reward need not be shaken by the facts and happenings of earth. Thus, 579, Abath 2, 2021, see note 88. Nothing to do with the Kanye West song. R. Tharphone said, "The day is short, and the work is great, and the laborers are sluggish, and the reward is much, and the master of the house is urgent." He used to say also, "It is not thy duty to complete the work, but neither art thou free to desist from it. If thou hast studied much Torah, much reward will be given thee, and faithful is thy employer to pay thee the reward of thy labor. But know that the grant of reward to the righteous will be in the time to come." Abath 2:20 and 21. Note 88. The following long passage is famous. It also illustrates the mechanical view of goodness and reward to which I have already alluded, and the integrity and joy of the rabbis in raising objections and in finding answers to them. Qid 39b, Qid 110, see selection 555. He who fulfills a command, they, see selection 478, do good to him. They prolong his days. They cause him to inherit the land, i.e., the world to come. He who does not fulfill a command, they do not good to him. They do not do good to him. They do not prolong his days. He does not inherit the land. The Gemara points out that this Mishnah appears to be in contradiction with the teaching. Of the following things, a man enjoys the fruit and interest in this world, while the stock remains for him in the world to come, namely the honor of father and mother, the doing of loving deeds, hospitality, making peace between man and his fellow, but the study of the law weighs as much as all of them together. R. Judah said, the meaning of the Mishnah is that if a man sins and good deeds balance one another, then if he does one good deed more, to him they do good, as if he had fulfilled the whole law. But then, are we to understand that of the commandments mentioned above, if a man does only one of them and is otherwise sinful, to him they do good? Or Shemaiah said, no, it means that when sins and good deeds are equal, one of the good deeds mentioned turns the scale. Another apparent contradiction to the teaching that to him who does one extra good deed, they do good, etc., seems to be given in the Baraita, that to him whose good deeds are just greater than his sins, they do evil as if he had burnt the whole law and left not a letter behind, whereas to him whose sins are just greater than his good deeds, they do good as if he had kept the whole law, and every letter of it, i.e. the sins of the one are punished in this world, so that he may inherit the world to come. The good deeds of the other are rewarded in this world, so that he may be excluded from the world to come. Abaye said, the Mishnah means that both his good deeds are rewarded and his bad deeds punished in this world. Rabba said, the Baraita quoted above is in accordance with the view of R. Jacob, who said that there is no reward in this world for the fulfillment of the commandments. For R. Jacob said, there is no command of the law to which a reward is attached, with the resurrection of the dead not connected, i.e. the reward is in the world to come. In the command to honor father and mother, it is said, that you may live long and that it may be well with you. And in the command about the bird and its young, it is said that it may be well with you and that you may live long. Deuteronomy 22:7. Now if a father say to his son, ascend to the top of yonder castle and bring me down some young pigeons, and he goes up and lets the mother bird escape and takes the young birds, and on coming down he falls and dies, how is it well with him? And where is his long life? But the meaning is that it may be well with you in the world which is all good, and that ye may live long in the world which is everlasting. But perhaps such a case never happened, or Jacob saw it happen. But perhaps the man had sinful intentions. God does not count the evil intentions if there be no evil deed, but perhaps he had idolatrous intentions. For it is said that I may take the house of Israel in their own heart, because they are all estranged from me through their idols. This verse from Ezekiel 14:5 seems to indicate that even the idolatrous intention is punishable by God. But the reward of the commandments is in this world, then surely they should have protected him, that he did not have sinful thoughts, but are, Eleazar said, they who carry out a command are not injured in their going forth to do it. But it was different here, for the death occurred upon the return. But Eleazar really said that they who carry out a command are not injured upon the return as well as on their going forth. It was perhaps a broken ladder, and where there is an injury to be expected, one must not rely on a miracle. Tid 39b, Tid 110c, 555 of our selections. Our rabbis have taught, Tano Rabbanan is one of the phrases which indicates the citation from a Baraita, c. 830 of the selections. Others are Tene, Tanya, it has been taught. There is a teaching in contradistinction. The phrases Tanan, Tanena, we have learnt, denote citations from the Mishnah. Baraita, literally, external matter, is Haggadik, or halakhic material, taught in external or private schools, as opposed to the academies. The title Tana Bara, teacher of the external school, was applied to the rabbi cited as responsible for the Baraita. These external teachings, some of which go back to the time of Shammai, were not included by Judah Hanasi in his Mishnah. Not all, however, are pre-Mishnaic, but very frequently the Baraita preserves the old halakha, while the Mishnah gives the latter development. The post-Mishnaic Baraita usually elucidates the halakha of the Mishnah. Readers of this book can generally regard the passages cited as Baraita as old, hence the need for this elucidation. Baraitot are preserved in the Gemara. They are introduced by special formulas. For example, there is a teaching our rabbis have taught. See Gaster's prayer book, page 9, and that's H.L.'s note. Illustrative is also this story, TJ San 6, section 9, folio 23c, line 31, TJ Chog 2, section 2, folio 77d, line 43. Two pious men are in the variant. Two disciples of the wise, or two rabbis, lived in Ashkelon. They ate and drank together and occupied themselves with the Torah. One died, and no one accompanied his body to the grave. The tax collector, Mayan, or his son, died, and the whole town followed his body. The surviving pious man said, "Woe, nothing evil happens to the wicked." He saw a vision in a dream. A voice said, "Despise not the sons of your Lord." The one had committed one sin, and so by his unaccompanied burial his iniquity is atoned for, or he has received his punishment. The other had performed one good deed, and so by his grand funeral he has received his reward. What sin had the one committed? Far be it that he had ever committed a serious sin. But once he put on the tefillin for the head before the tefillin for the hand, And what good deed had the other performed? Far be it that he had ever done a really fine deed. But once he had arranged a meal for the Bulutai, the municipal councilors of the city, and they did not come. And he said, "Let the poor eat it, that it be not wasted." Others say, he once went through the marketplace, and he dropped a loaf, and a poor man picked it up, and he said nothing, so as not to make him blush for shame. After some days the pious man saw in a dream his companion walking in the garden, paradise, under trees and by wells of water, and he saw the tax collector, and his tongue sought to drink at the brink of a river. He tried to reach the water, but he could not. TJ 6, Section 9, Folio 23C, line 31, TJ Chog 2, Section 2, Folio 77D, line 43. The reward of learning and love of God on earth may be martyrdom. The following strange story is justly famous. 582, Men 29b. R. Judas said, "In the name of Rob." When Moses went up to God, he found God sitting and putting little crowns on the top of the letters of the law. He said to God, "Who is it that forces thee to put crowns to the letters of the law, which thou hast already written?" He replied, "A man is to appear on earth after many generations, Akiba be Joseph by name, who will expound for each tip of every letter of the law, heaps and heaps of rulings." Halakot. Then Moses said, "Show him to me." God replied, "Turn around." So he did, and he went and sat at the end of the 8th row of the students listening to our Akiba, and he did not understand anything of what was being said, and his strength abated. When Akiba came to a certain matter which needed proof, and his disciples asked him how he knew this, Akiba replied, "This is a teaching which was delivered to Moses on Sinai." Then the mind of Moses was quieted. Then he went back to God and said, "Thou hast a man like this, and thou givest the Torah through me." Then God said, "Be silent." Thus it had seemed good to me. Then Moses said, "Thou hast shown me his knowledge of the Torah. Show me now his reward." Then God said, "Turn round." He did so, and he saw the flesh of Akiba being weighed in the meat market. Then he said, "Such is his knowledge of the law, and such is his reward." Then God said, "Silence." So it has seemed good to me. Men 29b.